Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." There is something deeply unsettling about watching an intelligent man choose the wrong woman, not once, but repeatedly. The strange part is not that he gets hurt. Anyone can make a mistake in love. The strange part is that these are often men who excel everywhere else. Men who solve problems, men who see patterns, men who calculate risk better than most people around them. And yet, when it comes to relationships, many of them walk toward the same emotional fire again and again, not blindly, but with conviction. Carl Jung believed this happens for a reason, not because intelligent men are irrational, and not because they lack judgment, but because attraction is not ruled by logic alone. There are forces beneath awareness, quiet psychological patterns that shape desire long before reason enters the room. And unless a man understands them, intelligence may simply become a more sophisticated way of defending the wrong choice. In this video, we explore the 6 expensive reasons intelligent men often choose the wrong woman, and how understanding them may be the first step towards choosing differently. Because the problem may not be that he cannot see. It may be that he is seeing through a lens he never knew he had. And the first reason begins much earlier than most men realize, inside the emotional blueprint formed long before adulthood.
Reason number 1. He confuses familiarity with compatibility. Inspired by Carl Jung was, what is familiar is not always what is healthy. Some of the most painful relationship choices do not begin with bad judgment. They begin with something that feels strangely familiar. Carl Jung believed that every man carries an unconscious emotional blueprint, what he called the anima. Not a picture of what a woman should look like, but a feeling of what love, femininity, and emotional connection are supposed to feel like. And this blueprint is rarely created in adulthood. It forms quietly in childhood, through the women who shaped his emotional world: a mother, a caregiver, a teacher, warmth and affection, distance and unpredictability, comfort and emotional absence. A man may forget those experiences consciously, but emotionally, the imprint often remains. And this is where intelligent men become surprisingly vulnerable. Because intelligence helps a man analyze what he sees, but attraction often begins before analysis. Before logic asks, "Is she good for me?" the unconscious asks something much older: "Does she feel familiar?" And familiarity is powerful. A woman who carries emotional patterns resembling early experiences may create an immediate sense of recognition. Not necessarily safety, not necessarily compatibility, recognition. That feeling can be difficult to describe. He may say, "There's just something about her. I can't explain it. She feels different." But often, what feels different is actually deeply familiar. This explains a difficult truth many men resist. A stable and emotionally healthy woman may not create immediate intensity. She may feel calm, predictable, even emotionally quiet. Meanwhile, a woman who carries inconsistency, emotional distance, or unpredictability may trigger something far stronger. Not because she is better for him, but because some part of his nervous system has met this emotional atmosphere before. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." Carl Jung understood something uncomfortable about human attraction. Many people do not choose love consciously. They choose what their inner world already recognizes. And intelligent men are not exempt from this. In some cases, they are more vulnerable, because once the feeling appears, the mind becomes remarkably skilled at defending it. He does not merely feel attracted, he explains the attraction. He builds reasons around it. And suddenly, familiarity begins wearing the mask of compatibility. This does not mean childhood defines a man forever, nor does it mean familiar attraction is automatically wrong, but it raises an uncomfortable question. Do I truly feel connected to her, or does she simply feel emotionally familiar? Because those are not always the same thing. And this leads to the second reason intelligent men choose the wrong woman. Sometimes they are not falling in love with the woman herself, but with an image their own mind has quietly created.
Reason number 2, he falls in love with a projection. Many intelligent men believe they are seeing a woman clearly in the early stages of attraction. But Carl Jung would argue something far more unsettling. Often, they are not seeing her clearly at all. They are seeing her through projection. This is one of the most misunderstood ideas in psychology. Projection does not mean the feelings are fake. The emotions are real. The excitement is real. The sense of connection can feel overwhelming. The distortion lies elsewhere. It lies in what the feelings are attached to. Carl Jung believes that in the beginning of romantic attraction, a man often projects parts of his unconscious onto the woman in front of him. She becomes more than herself. She becomes a screen carrying meaning, fantasy, and emotional symbolism. And this explains experiences many men know well. The strange certainty after only a short time. The feeling that she understands me. She feels different. I've known her forever. To the man experiencing it, these feelings seem undeniable. And that is precisely why projection is so powerful. Because it does not feel like imagination. It feels like recognition. Carl Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Carl Jung understood that what we see in others is often tangled with what lives inside us. Attraction works similarly. Sometimes a man is not responding to the woman herself. He is responding to what she represents inside his own inner world. Her mystery, her emotional distance, her fragility, her intensity. The mind quietly fills gaps with meaning. And intelligent men can become especially vulnerable here, not because they lack discernment, but because they trust their instincts. Their judgment has served them well elsewhere, in business, leadership, problem solving. So when attraction arrives carrying unusual intensity, they give that feeling enormous credibility. And then something subtle happens. The intelligent mind begins constructing a case. He explains why the connection is exceptional, why the timing is meaningful, why this relationship is different from the others. The reasoning may sound thoughtful, even persuasive, but logic can become dangerous when it is used to defend an emotional illusion. This is why some men hold tightly to relationships that never truly existed in the way they imagined. Not because reality was unclear, but because the projection felt more convincing than reality itself. And this leads to a difficult question. Am I seeing who she truly is, or am I seeing what I need her to be? Because intelligent men do not always fall for the wrong woman because they lack wisdom. Sometimes they fall for the story their own unconscious is telling them. And when projection combines with emotional intensity, the danger grows even deeper. Because the third reason is where many intelligent men mistake emotional chaos for love itself. Reason number 3, he mistakes chaos for chemistry. There is a painful pattern many intelligent men rarely recognize while they are inside it. The relationships that disturb them the most
often attract them the strongest. Not always, but often enough to deserve serious attention. A calm woman may feel pleasant, respectful, emotionally healthy, and yet something feels missing. No urgency, no emotional electricity, no overwhelming pull. Meanwhile, a woman who is difficult to understand or emotionally unpredictable can produce an entirely different experience. Suddenly there is tension, anticipation, emotional highs and lows, and the nervous system interprets this intensity as significance. This is where many intelligent men become confused. They assume, if I feel this strongly, it must mean something profound. But strong feeling and healthy connection are not automatically the same thing. Psychology reveals something uncomfortable about attraction. Our bodies do not always label emotions accurately. A famous experiment by psychologists Donald Dutton and Arthur Aaron illustrated this clearly. Men who crossed a frightening suspension bridge were more likely to feel attraction toward a woman they met afterward. Their bodies had mistaken fear for desire. Anxiety had borrowed the language of romance. And romantic attraction can work the same way. Alain de Botton once wrote, "We don't fall for people because they're good for us. We fall for people whose emotional patterns feel familiar to us." This observation cuts deeper than many men expect, because chemistry is not always proof of compatibility. Sometimes it is proof of emotional familiarity or unresolved tension, or a nervous system trained to associate intensity with love. For intelligent men, this pattern can be especially dangerous. Their minds crave stimulation, challenge, complexity. These qualities often help them thrive professionally, but in relationships, the same appetite can distort perception. A peaceful connection may feel emotionally flat, while unpredictability feels alive. A woman who creates uncertainty may appear fascinating, passionate, impossible to forget. Not necessarily because she offers intimacy, but because she generates emotional movement, and movement can feel intoxicating. This is why some men unconsciously romanticize instability. They call it chemistry, depth, passion. But beneath the surface, something else may be happening. Not connection, but activation. Not love, but nervous system stimulation. And this raises a question many men avoid asking. Do I miss her, or do I miss the emotional intensity surrounding her? Because chaos has a seductive quality. It creates drama, and drama often masquerades as meaning. But Carl Jung believed another force is usually operating beneath this attraction, something even harder to recognize. Sometimes a man is not only chasing intensity, he's chasing a forgotten part of himself.
Reason number 4. He chases his own shadow. Carl Jung believed that every person carries a hidden psychological territory he called the shadow. Not evil, not darkness in the dramatic sense, but the parts of ourselves we learned to suppress, the emotions we buried, the qualities we were taught to hide. For many intelligent men, this process begins early. They are rewarded for being rational, composed, capable, and controlled. And slowly, certain parts of them are pushed underground. Emotional intensity, vulnerability, need, chaos, sensitivity. Not destroyed, only hidden. And hidden parts do not disappear. They wait. This is where attraction becomes psychologically complicated. A man may meet a woman who openly expresses qualities he has spent years restraining. She may be emotionally intense, spontaneous, unpredictable, deeply expressive. And something inside him responds immediately. Not always consciously, but powerfully. Because the unconscious whispers, "She carries something I lost."
This is why certain attractions feel strangely magnetic, not merely romantic, but psychologically charged. Carl Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Carl Jung believed that ignored parts of the self continue influencing life from beneath awareness, and relationships often become the stage where this hidden drama unfolds. Many intelligent men mistake this psychological attraction for destiny. They believe they have found someone extraordinary, someone unlike anyone else. But sometimes what feels extraordinary is not compatibility. It is psychological compensation. The woman appears to embody freedom he denied himself, emotion he suppressed, intensity he never permitted. And without realizing it, he begins seeking wholeness through proximity. The logic sounds convincing. She makes me feel alive. She brings out another side of me. I feel more complete around her. And some of that experience may be real. But Carl Jung warned of a difficult truth. Being close to a quality is not the same as integrating it. A chaotic woman cannot heal a man's buried chaos. An emotionally intense woman cannot permanently reconnect him with feelings he refuses to confront himself. Because proximity is not healing. And this is where disappointment quietly begins. The relationship carries impossible expectations. He hopes she will restore something inside him. She feels pressure she cannot explain, and eventually reality begins to challenge fantasy. Not because either person is evil, but because no relationship can successfully carry the weight of unfinished inner work. This creates a difficult but necessary question. Do I love who she is, or do I love what she allows me to feel about myself? Because sometimes the attraction is not really towards her. It is towards the abandoned parts of himself reflected through her. And for many intelligent men, this attraction becomes even stronger when mixed with something that feels noble, even selfless. The desire not merely to love, but to rescue.
Reason number 5. He wants to rescue rather than relate. Some intelligent men are not only attracted to emotional intensity, they are attracted to responsibility, to being needed, to feeling indispensable in someone else's life. And at first, this instinct appears noble. He meets a woman who is struggling, perhaps emotionally wounded, unstable, lost, or carrying pain he believes others failed to understand. And something inside him responds immediately. Not merely attraction, but purpose. He tells himself, I can help her. I understand her. She just needs someone who truly sees her. And this is where the rescuer pattern quietly begins. The relationship no longer feels like simple connection. It becomes a mission, a psychological role. And intelligent men can become deeply attached to this role. Because solving problems is familiar territory. They have spent years being rewarded for competence, usefulness, fixing what is broken. So when emotional intimacy becomes intertwined with helping, rescuing can feel very close to love. But Carl Jung would likely ask a more uncomfortable question. Why does being needed feel safer than being known? Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." This quote speaks to something deeper than identity. It speaks to authenticity. Because real intimacy asks a man to appear without performance, without expertise, without the protection of usefulness. And for some men, that exposure feels frightening. Being needed offers emotional certainty. If she depends on him, he matters. If she struggles, he has a role. If he is rescuing, he does not have to face the vulnerable uncertainty of simply being loved.
This is why some intelligent men repeatedly choose relationships where imbalance already exists, not consciously, but psychologically. The wounded woman creates emotional gravity, and beneath compassion, another dynamic may quietly operate. Focus on her pain, avoid confronting his own. The relationship becomes organized around management rather than mutual presence. He gives, guides, carries, endures, and gradually love turns into labor. The tragedy is that neither person truly receives what they hoped for. She may grow resentful of being treated like a project. He may grow exhausted that his devotion never creates the emotional security he imagined. Because rescuing and intimacy are not the same thing. One depends on imbalance, the other depends on equality. And this raises a difficult question. Do I love her, or do I love the feeling of being needed by her? Because some men do not chase difficult relationships despite the pain. They chase them because pain gives them purpose. And yet, this pattern does not emerge in isolation. Many men inherited it long before their first relationship ever began, because the final reason lies beyond psychology alone, inside the stories culture taught them about love itself.
Reason number 6. He was taught that love must hurt. Long before a man enters his first serious relationship, he has already inherited ideas about what love is supposed to feel like. And many of those ideas are quietly destructive. Think about the stories men grow up watching. The hero rarely ends up with the woman who is calm, emotionally available, and easy to trust. He pursues the difficult one, the mysterious one, the one who resists him. The woman who makes him suffer becomes the woman he cannot forget. And over time, these stories leave psychological fingerprints, not always consciously, but repeatedly. They teach difficulty means value, unavailability means depth, emotional struggle means devotion. The message becomes subtle but powerful. If love does not hurt, perhaps it is not real. And modern culture amplifies this even further. Social media celebrates emotional extremes, breakdowns, obsessions, public heartbreak, cinematic passion. But the quiet rhythm of a healthy relationship rarely goes viral. Steady affection is not dramatic. Consistency is not algorithmic. And because of this, many men consume thousands of emotional stories pointing toward the same conclusion. Intensity equals love. Krishnamurti wrote, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." This idea extends far beyond society in general. Sometimes culture normalizes emotional patterns that quietly damage people, and love is no exception. A man may genuinely believe he is pursuing passion when in reality he is pursuing an inherited script. This explains why emotionally healthy relationships can initially feel unfamiliar, even disappointing. There may be no emotional roller coaster, no constant uncertainty, no exhausting pursuit. And the nervous system, conditioned by years of drama and romantic mythology, asks, where is the spark? Where is the urgency? But perhaps that question deserves to be reversed. Not, why does peace feel boring, but why does suffering feel familiar? Because many intelligent men do not choose painful relationships randomly. They follow a map, part childhood, part psychology, part culture. And unless that map is questioned, the same destination appears under different faces. This brings us to the uncomfortable truth beneath the entire conversation. Intelligence was never the real problem, and perhaps it was never the real solution either. Final thought. Smart men always choose the wrong woman. Inspired by Carl Jung was, until you make peace with your past, it will continue to appear in your present. So let us return to the question we began with. Why do intelligent men choose the wrong woman? Not because intelligence failed them, and not because they are weak, foolish, or incapable of love. The deeper truth is often harder to accept. Many intelligent men enter relationships believing they are choosing freely, while quietly following emotional patterns they never consciously examined. Patterns built through familiarity, through projection, through nervous systems trained to mistake intensity for meaning, through buried shadows seeking expression, through the desire to rescue rather than relate, and through cultural stories that taught them long before adulthood that love must be difficult to be valuable. This is why logic alone rarely solves the problem. A man may understand psychology, read Carl Jung, analyze his history, recognize the pattern intellectually, and still repeat it. Because awareness is not transformation. Recognition is only the beginning. Real change asks something more demanding. It asks a man to become honest with himself, to slow down attraction rather than worship it, to question chemistry instead of automatically trusting it, to stop asking only, "Do I want her?" and begin asking, "Why does this particular dynamic feel so powerful to me?" This is not cynicism toward love. It is responsibility within love. Because healthy relationships are not built merely on emotional intensity. They are built on clarity, on emotional safety, on mutual presence. And perhaps this is the lesson intelligent men need most. A relationship does not become meaningful because it is painful. A woman does not become valuable because she is difficult to reach. And emotional chaos does not become love simply because it feels overwhelming. Sometimes the greatest maturity is learning to trust what is calm, what is honest, what does not demand that you lose yourself in order to keep it. Carl Jung once wrote, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." Carl Jung believed the unconscious repeats its lessons until they are understood, which means the painful relationship that changed you may not have been meaningless. It may have been instruction, not punishment. Instruction. And perhaps the real question is no longer, "Why did I choose the wrong woman?" but "What inside me must change so I no longer mistake old wounds for love?" Because the man who answers that question does more than avoid another mistake. He changes the pattern itself. And that may be the difference between repeating pain and finally building the kind of love that no longer requires suffering to feel real. Thank you for watching Stoic Wisdom today. And now, I want to hear from you. Which of these 6 reasons hit closest to home? Have you ever mistaken familiarity, chaos, or emotional intensity for genuine love? Share your experience in the comments, because conversations like this matter. And if you know a man who keeps repeating the same painful relationship pattern, send this video to him. He may understand himself differently after watching it. And subscribe to the channel if you're ready to explore the psychological truths most people avoid, but that quietly shape our lives every day. Until next time, stay calm, stay grounded, stay stoic.